No, it's very, very good, to be fair.
Alex, I know you want to talk a little bit about Burnley as well. Sean Dyche's sort of speculation going around that he might stay, he might leave. We're not really sure what's going on there. They've had good wins recently. You're doing well in the table. Why do you think he wants to leave? Well, speculation that he does.
Yeah, well, look, so obviously since we come back, we've had obviously the game against Man City, which was a poor performance, but obviously up against Man City, and you can't really do a lot about that. Like when they're going full pelt, and then we've come back, and this is part of the problem, which I'll just get into. With loads of injuries, loads of a depleted squad, we managed to get a 1-0 win against Watford, and then a 1-0 win against Crystal Palace. Like both clean sheets, you can't argue. 1-0s, obviously, it's what Dyche does often. But yeah, so in and amongst this positivity is Dyche complaining to the board, and rightly so, because in two of these 3 games we've had only 7 of the 9 players you're allowed on the bench, 6 of which in both those 7 were youth players and 2 goalies. So rightly so, Dyche then looks to the board and he's now publicly making statements which he's never done before about, well, look, this is what happens when you don't give me the finances to improve in the Premier League. Look, Dyche has been, I don't think Burnley fans appreciate him enough. I certainly do. And I'll tell you what, if he does go, it'll be like a sort of, obviously not to the same scale, but sort of like an Alex Ferguson era. And I don't want to compare the two, because obviously they're completely different styles of managers and what they do. But Sean Dyche has been so important for the town of Burnley. For one, look, the town revolves around the football club. It's one of these towns. It's very poor, northern town that hasn't got a lot of money, hasn't got a lot of infrastructure, and it revolves around the football club doing well. Sean Dyche, taken it over 7 years ago, he's managed to get us up to the Prem. He's had a knock. We went back down. He's got straight back up. We've now been in the Prem for, this will be our 4th consecutive season, where we've overachieved every single season and done well. And the fact that he could go because the board are not backing him and not giving in to what all he wants, just what, like 1 or 2 more players in the summer transfer, and there was all he was asking for. They weren't budging. It just drives me insane, because this arguably is one of our best managers in Burnley's history. Yeah, we're not going to win anything. No Burnley fan wants to. We're not saying we want to get to Euro. We're not saying we want to challenge for titles. We just want some respect put on Dyche's name, and for the board to respect what he's done for the club. He's kept Burnley in the Premier League for 4 seasons in a row. Burnley, a town of 60,000, a town that, as I said, revolves around the football club, a town that was predicted to go down to League One when he took over, and he's turned us into a stable Premiership club. It just drives me insane, because they don't realise that if Dyche goes, there's no hope for Burnley staying in the league. And that's me. I don't want to sound pessimistic, because obviously I get that I do there, but just off gut reaction that no one, look, in the training ground, for example, all Dyche's quotes are up on the wall. All the players he buys are tailored, made for him to coach in the way that he wants to. He's bought Pope for 2 million, who's now an England international. He bought Cork from Swansea, England international. He bought Tarkowski from Brentford, England international now. He's got Dwight McNeil, who's now worth 30-40 million. What else can the guy do to get the respect he deserves from the board? I just do not know, and it's very frustrating.
I think your frustration is also sort of echoed across many clubs, but this sort of happening over the 7 years that Dyche has been there. This is sort of the first time this is sort of popped up as sort of
it's the first time he's publicly so in 7.5 years. He said it in interviews recently. It's the first time he's publicly called out the board, and I think if any manager deserves to do that, then it's him at the end of the day. And look, think how many rifts there are between sort of the board and managers these days. There's left, right, centre. Like Chelsea, they had an awful time with Antonio Conte and Roman Abramovich, and then Arsenal with Emery and is it Sinelli or what's the
I couldn't tell you.
what's the Arsenal owner's name? Well, whatever. The guy who lives in Las Vegas knows acres and acres of land. Whatever. So the level that we've been competing at, we've overstretched ourselves. Is what I'm trying to say, and that's with Dyche performing on a shoestring budget. So, basically, what he's saying to the board is right. You give me what I want now, or I'm off. Which is much, and obviously it's frustrating, but I think I can't really ask for much more than that as a fan for him to say that, because what else can you do at the end of the day?
Well, I think you raise a good point with the you sort of overstretch yourself, and I think that showed in the season that you got into Europa League qualified. Yeah. You completely were exhausted. You completely faltered out of that, and I would love to see Bournemouth, Burnley in the Europa League, but they're qualifying really stretching. And then you were fighting for relegation, and I see Burnley as a staple Premier League side. There's no doubt in that, and you've done amazing. You've got Europa League football or qualifying, and you're fighting for that again. That in what, a space of 2-3 seasons? That's incredible.
Exactly.
No one would have ever said Burnley would have ever managed that, and for your team to do that with the resources that you have, which is much limited compared to the likes of the big teams like your Man United's, Man City's, Liverpool's. You have, and Dyche has done an amazing job. There's no doubt in anyone's mind, neutral Burnley fan. I don't think you can say it and criticise the work he's put into making that club successful. So I can fully see your frustration.
It's just, look, and just to put it into context, like, I mean, obviously, we can sort of relate to this a little bit because obviously you're a Spurs fan and you went a few transfer windows with only signing the odd player. And I remember the summer transfer window of, was it 2-3 years ago? We didn't sign anyone, and it's the same situation with you. You obviously you have a stadium, so it's a little bit different, but the same context in that you're near the best you have been in such a long time, and you don't capitalize on it. You don't say, right, now let's have the ambition to push on. Like, let's have the ambition. Burnley, look, we're like so many of these mid-table clubs now, where with the right investment, we could push to be one of these Europa League clubs. And but that's not even what Burnley fans necessarily want. We're just happy being in the Premier League. Like, as I said, for a town, like, it's so important that we have Premier League football for the town, and it's just frustrating that a manager would leave after 8 years because the board wouldn't provide just some more players.
I really do hope that the
sorry for the miniature rant, guys.
You were warned at the start of this podcast.
Get it off my chest.
Right. I don't think the board can sit there and go, well, all right then, bye, because they have to look at the success that Dyche has had. Yeah, it's not trophy success, but it's success in a sense of a small town Premier League team, and I think they'll have to sit down. Obviously, we'll have to see how the news develops. But I do hope for Burnley's sake that Dyche stays on, because I do think he does do a good job.
I do think, for the record, just quickly before we leave this subject, I do think he actually will stay. I think the board are smart enough people to realise that without him, without him there could be serious trouble. So I do. I'm not saying that I think he will. I do think he will stay. But it's just having the uncertainty of it is worrying. Of course it is. But anyway, look, we've won our last 2 games 1-0. Nick Pope's going to get the Golden Glove. It's all fine. I
think that's fantastic that Nick Pope.
Imagine if he does.
I think for anything who's got to keep it.
That'll go straight in our trophy cabinet. That'll be like prime centre, Nick Pope Golden Glove. Oh, I'd love it.
Deserves to be.